The stage of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert shimmered under the warm, professional lights, the polished mahogany desk and deep blue backdrop lending the set its familiar, inviting glow. The studio audience buzzed with anticipation as Drew Barrymore, the beloved actress and talk show host, made her entrance, her radiant smile lighting up the space as she waved enthusiastically. Clad in a sleek, emerald green suit that shimmered under the stage lights, Drew took her seat beside Stephen, exchanging a warm greeting. At first, their banter flowed effortlessly, Stephen cracking his trademark sharp, self-deprecating jokes, and Drew responding with her characteristic warmth and laughter. But beneath the surface of their friendly exchange, a tension began to build, subtle at first, like a faint crack in glass that no one notices until it spreads. The conversation turned toward current events, and that was where the undercurrent of unease began to surge more visibly. Stephen, leaning forward with an earnest expression, brought up a recent controversy involving Drew's decision to resume filming her talk show during a major industry strike, despite the vocal disapproval of many fellow entertainers and union members. The mood in the room shifted. The audience, sensing the change, fell into a tense silence, their earlier laughter now replaced by a collective breath held in suspense. Drew's smile faltered for the briefest of moments, her eyes flashing with the hint of defensiveness, but she recovered quickly, adjusting the lapel of her jacket as she launched into an explanation. She spoke passionately about her commitment to her staff, her desire to support them financially during tough times, her belief that she was doing the right thing under complex circumstances. But as her voice grew firmer, so too did Stephen's resolve to press the issue, his questions growing sharper, his tone more probing. It was clear this was no longer the light-hearted interview that had been planned. What began as a civil disagreement quickly escalated. Stephen, ever the skilled interviewer, pointed out the optics of her decision, questioning whether returning to production sent the wrong message to the struggling workers who had put their livelihoods on the line for collective bargaining rights. Drew's cheeks flushed as she leaned forward, her voice rising slightly in pitch, emotion bubbling just beneath the surface. She spoke of nuance, of the difficult choices that public figures are sometimes forced to make, of the weight of responsibility she felt toward her team. But Stephen was relentless, countering with examples, quoting union leaders, even referencing a viral video of picketers outside her studio that had stirred considerable debate online. The audience watched, riveted and uncomfortable, as two beloved figures clashed on a national stage in a way no one had anticipated. As the exchange grew more heated, Drew's usual composure began to crack. Her voice trembled with frustration as she accused Stephen of oversimplifying a deeply personal and complex issue. She spoke of sleepless nights, of the countless hours she'd spent agonizing over her decision, of the cruel messages and threats she'd received online. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but still, she refused to back down, her voice gaining strength as she defended her choices. Stephen, for his part, maintained his signature calm, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of regret at the intensity their conversation had reached. He tried to steer the discussion back to safer ground, offering a light-hearted quip, but it was too late. The emotional tide had risen too high, and neither seemed able to retreat from the precipice they'd reached. The audience, sensing the escalating drama, sat in stunned silence, their earlier applause and laughter forgotten. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every raw, unscripted moment as Drew, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, struggled to steady her breathing. Stephen, sensing the precariousness of the situation, leaned back slightly, giving her space. But his next question, perhaps intended to offer a chance for reconciliation, only served to ignite the spark further. He asked if, in hindsight, she would have made the same choice, knowing what she knew now about the backlash and the pain it had caused. Drew's expression hardened, her jaw set, and in that instant, the atmosphere changed irreversibly. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, Drew rose from her chair, her movement sudden and decisive. The audience gasped collectively, some unsure if what they were witnessing was real or some elaborate, pre-planned stunt. Drew's voice rang out, trembling but firm, as she declared that she would not sit there and be judged for doing what she believed was right, for trying to care for her team in a time of uncertainty. Stephen, momentarily stunned into silence, watched as Drew stepped away from the desk, her heels clicking against the stage floor with every purposeful stride. Stagehands froze, unsure whether to intervene, as the director's voice crackled urgently through the earpieces of the crew. The camera operators hesitated, their lenses following Drew as she made her way toward the edge of the set, security trained for moments of genuine emergency rather than the unraveling of a high-profile interview, approached cautiously, unsure whether their involvement was needed. Stephen, finding his voice at last, called after Drew, his tone softer, pleading, as he tried to de-escalate the moment. But Drew was resolute, her eyes fixed ahead, determined to exit on her own terms. The audience remained in stunned silence, the tension so thick it seemed to pulse in the air. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the moment was over. Drew disappeared behind the stage curtain, leaving Stephen alone at his desk, the weight of the unexpected clash settling over him like a heavy shroud. For a long beat, Stephen sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the empty chair beside him. The audience, unsure whether to applaud, laugh, or remain silent, waited for some signal, some cue that normalcy had been restored. Finally, Stephen exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair as he addressed the crowd with a wry, bittersweet smile. He acknowledged the intensity of what had just transpired, expressing hope that viewers would approach the situation with empathy for both sides. The cameras kept rolling as he attempted to lighten the mood, offering a self-deprecating joke about his inability to keep guests in their seats, but the usual easy laughter of the crowd was slow to return. The producers scrambled behind the scenes, debating whether to cut to commercial or let the moment play out, aware that they had captured television history in the making. In the hours that followed, clips of the exchange flooded social media, sparking passionate debate among fans, critics, and fellow entertainers alike. Some hailed Drew's walkout as a courageous stand against unfair scrutiny, while others criticized her for refusing to engage fully in difficult conversations. Stephen, for his part, issued a measured statement praising Drew's talents and acknowledging the complexity of the issues they had discussed. The clash became the talk of morning shows, podcasts, and online forums, dissected from every angle, analyzed for hidden meaning, and transformed into countless memes and sound bites. What had begun as a routine promotional interview had evolved into a defining moment, one that would linger in the cultural conversation for weeks to come.